Where's makeup? Somebody needs to make me
Wardrobe.
look better. I do too. Our feet are touching. Is that weird?
That is kind of weird.
Hey, episode number 6?
We're on 6.
I wondered how long it would take Phil to change the set. I love this. This is great.
Here's the thing. I normally right now would tell you the 3 things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you the 3 things that we're going to talk about
Yeah.
because Mark has no idea. What
Normally I would know, and I have no clue.
Hang around because the other 2 things are very interesting, and I guarantee you will like them.
Okay. What's happening in my life right now is kind of renovation.
You are in
Renovation. At my house, we're doing some renovation. I'm mostly outside because my daughter's graduation party's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
At the church, we're looking at some sweet renovation.
Yeah.
And then our neighbors are actually building behind us. They're renovating the field out there and putting some construction in.
Like this is the Dalton campus.
The Dalton campus, there's somebody bought the property behind us and putting up a plaza back there, some really cool stuff. So there's lots of changes going on, which is kind of fun.
They're going to be putting in a road like right next to
A
our
road,
parking lot right
access
there.
road, and then I think there's a cafe and a hair salon and like a children's COSI museum, like a mini COSI.
STEAM? Is that what
STEAM,
it is?
yeah.
Yeah, STEAM.
Science, technology, something, mathematics.
So that's going in here soon.
The Dalton campus is going to get a little bit of facelift here before school starts next year. So that's me. What's happening with you?
I built planters yesterday. Not planters. What were they called?
Raised bed garden
beds,
stuff. Okay,
yeah.
cool. You don't have to bend over as far, but I will tell you this.
Increase my efficiency.
I found out, so I did a garden and, fresh dirt, it's looking good. I went ahead after it was planted and mulched it real thick and the weeds didn't come through. That was my secret. I mulched the garden like I do a flower bed.
Oh, yeah.
It worked. That was exciting.
I have 2 things I want to talk about.
All right.
Both are,
Uh-oh.
you aren't ready
You're
for
probably
this.
going to unleash controversial stuff on me right now.
I don't know.
Because I didn't approve it.
No, this isn't like controversial. It's just something that I was not expecting. And when I read it, I almost didn't want to bring it to the podcast because I was like, this is something that I think we inferred the opposite of. But
I am
now
on the
there's-
edge of my seat right
But
now.
now there's studies out that is actually saying the other way.
Okay.
So we thought, and you and I have had this conversation,
Okay.
even that over 2020, because of quarantine and lockdown and being alone, that the suicide rate has gone up.
Yeah, depression, different things like that.
Yeah.
I've heard that from local people and police officers and so forth.
And I think that's just something that, like, we've looked at some stats and we've thought, like, okay, people are struggling more with mental health now than ever.
Yes.
And which we just assumed meant more suicides, things like that. Well, actually, a new study that came out in the JAMA, I love saying JAMA. I feel like that's a common one I go to, which is the Journal of American Medicinal Association.
Oh, okay.
If you ever want to know what that means.
Okay, I'm
but
glad
I'm just
to
gonna
know
ever
that.
call it JAMA.
JAMA.
Forever. But it suggests that the U.S. deaths by suicide have been slightly lower in 2020 than the past 4
interesting.
years. So last year, and this is really sad stuff to announce, but last year we saw 44,834 Americans kill themselves.
Okay.
That's the stat that was reported. That's down from 2019 where we saw 47,000. And then in 2018 it was 48.
Wow.
So it's down overall. And so I wanted to ask you, in light of this,
That's interesting.
what does that tell us about?
I don't know.
Like quarantining and what we did, and because I could have sworn to you that like.
Well, maybe what happened was there was a majority of people who were more down or suffering from depression or some anxiety issues than normal, because that doesn't speak to that, which didn't lead to suicide, right? Because when I talked to my police friends, they talked about more domestic violence than they had seen before. They talked about some crime elevating now that we're coming out of this. And so maybe there's a difference between what we perceived in terms of people feeling isolated, alone, afraid, those kind of things, and then actually taking your life. So I think us speaking into this idea of we know that you're dealing with some of these hard issues, we want to talk about mental health. I don't know that we were wrong about that. I'm actually thrilled to hear that suicides are down. I'm glad I'm wrong. Right? I'm super glad that I'm wrong with that. But I think, that's part of it. And as far as the numbers going down, I don't know, maybe more people were actually trying to reach out to each other because they knew they were isolated. I don't know.
I do remember some stats that talked about how we've seen more people go to get counseling in 2020 than ever before.
That would make sense to help.
So like, I think people are seeking out and there's a greater awakening to your mental health now more than ever. There's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say it's like healed, but like people are okay with saying like, there's something wrong with me.
It's okay
in
that
my
I'm not
head.
okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm
and it's okay to get help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
maybe
that's
that's part of it.
changed over. I would even say that's changed in the last like 10 years.
I would say even 5, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still have, when I talk to people, I'm always giving permission for counseling, like do this. And I'm getting more of the, yeah, you're right kind of a look versus I'm not doing that ever kind of thing. Men and women both.
This is my plug for counseling as well, because I did counseling over the last like 3-4 months or so. I went to just an online thing. It was betterhelp.com. So if you're looking for a quick way to get involved and get some just immediate like response from a counselor, you can do that. You can do Christian counseling, or you don't have to do Christian counseling, but they offer that available. And, I think that having someone to talk to and having an outside source is so helpful to you and your scenario, even so much as like, you live with your family, whether you're living with your parents or whether you're married and have a spouse. And sometimes like your spouse or the people that you're living with, they just don't understand what's happening, and they can't empathize quite with you. So counseling is a great help. Yeah.
And I would just throw in, I'm all about getting counseling from somebody with a solid Christian perspective or a solid faith. And here's what I would say, though. Not every counselor who would label themselves Christian is great at counseling, right? No matter what you do, look for a counselor who's going to help you follow through or be a part of the value system that you believe in. And if you're watching this and you're a follower of Jesus, then you need somebody that's going to help you go deeper in that direction.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing is true in me. Like I went through a few counselors before I found one that I was like, I resonate with.
And that's okay too. I tell people that all the time. Try this person. Here's who I'm recommending. May not resonate with them. Do somebody new. Don't just leave because they're telling you something you don't want to hear, but know that, man, this person's getting me and helping me see and understand.
If you are struggling with suicidal thoughts or just anxiety, depression, whatever it might be, I know we started off with this with the stat of like, suicides are down, but that's still a pretty high number.
Absolutely.
To say 44,000 took their lives this year. And so get help.
Reach out to somebody. Don't be embarrassed to do that. That's even the
or
church.
Or if you know someone that's struggling with that, reach out to them.
Yeah. And you don't have to reach out in the sense of like, I know you're down. Just reach out and say, how are you doing, man? I miss you. That kind of stuff goes a long ways. But if you feel like you don't have anybody to reach out to at all, reach out to the church. Mark at LWChurch.com, Phil at LWChurch.com. Well, point you in the right directions. But reach out.
2 different things that I want to talk about. And I'm not sure which one we should go with. Oh. There's one that's a little bit more serious, and then there's one that's like kind of a little bit more fun. What do you feel like?
I think fun, but you could give it a 1 or 2, and then I'll just pick 1 or 2 and then go from there.
1 or 2?
2.
All right, we're gonna do this then.
Here we go. Yes.
I want to throw out
Phil.
3 terms to you.
Okay.
And then I want you to tell me, where do you think we're at right now?
Who's we? Church or me and you?
Church and
community?
The world in general.
Okay. 3 terms.
3 terms: construction, deconstruction,
or
reconstruction.
Wow.
And you want some definitions for those?
Yeah, go ahead. That'll help me think for a moment.
Construction is like you're building your belief system and your worldview. Like you are learning about whatever the worldview it is.
Yep,
you're
understood.
learning about God. Okay. Deconstruction would be
apart.
challenging that worldview and its beliefs. Reconstruction would be rebuilding a new or more holistic set of beliefs.
You're going to hate my answer. You're absolutely going to hate my answer.
I'm very interested.
Because I feel like we're in this place where I can't label the majority of the population with any one of those. Whatever.
What if it was just in the church world?
Just in the church world.
Yeah.
I think that I'm seeing some of that construction, probably less of that. I'm seeing some destruction. Like I'm meeting with people who this idea of the church is kind of falling apart for them. And then I'm meeting with people that I'm reconstructing, like, okay, so you've walked through this. Because there's kind of as a child, right, construction. Maybe as a young adult, you're a little bit disenfranchised, deconstruction. And then as you stick with it, if you make it through your deconstruction, then you can reconstruct. Where are we at as a church? I really don't know how to label that.
I guess for me, like the reason I wanted to bring this and have a conversation about it is because I've been seeing a lot of people like over the past year or 2 years or whatever, like Josh Harris,
Yes.
the I Kiss Dating Goodbye.
You're talking about the big,
Yeah,
the
I mean-
media people. I mean,
deconstructed his faith and
Yeah.
basically was like, I'm out.
that music guy.
Rhett and Link, Rhett and Link,
Yes.
the Mythical Mornings or whatever.
Yes.
They, they're a couple that have kind of deconstructed their faith, and
Yep.
I think there was a Hillsong guy. His name was Marty.
Yes, that's who I was
something.
talking about.
Yeah.
He wrote songs. Marty,
Yes,
somebody.
I can't
Marty.
remember his name right now.
Marty McFly, I think.
But he was from Hillsong. He wrote a bunch
Yep.
of Hillsong music.
Some good stuff,
Yeah.
and then walked away
and
from
then
his
walked
faith.
away from his
Mhm.
faith. And
There's
so
some of that.
I feel like, at least for me, I'm seeing a lot of deconstruction right
Okay.
now. I want to figure out if that's a good place to be, or if, like, because from what I'm hearing you say is like people are at different places.
That's
but
what I'm seeing when I talk with people. But I would agree, Phil, there is somewhat of a movement of deconstruction. But people are at different stages.
I think it's interesting because I would look at, out of the three, construction, deconstruction, and reconstruction.
You would pick D.
I would pick D.
Yeah.
But I would also say that, like, we don't have a negative connotation with construction.
Right.
We are like, yeah, that's great. Someone's discovering their faith, discovering who they are.
Yeah.
And we don't have a negative connotation with reconstruction. But I feel like in the church right now, the one thing that we do have a negative connotation is with the deconstruction.
Well, because what do you deconstruct, right? And again, some of the things that Joshua Harris would have written, I'm like, that's good to deconstruct. But where do you stop doing that? And when you start deconstructing things, by the way, or tearing your faith apart and really looking at it, it makes people around you nervous. It makes the church nervous. If on Sunday I preached a sermon about deconstructing certain things, some people would be happy about some of it, but I could cross some lines and be like, no, this makes me nervous about what's this guy really believe. And so
I feel like most people who are deconstructing their faith are basically at a place where they're saying, okay, I fell in love with God.
Yeah.
Very real experience with him.
Mm-hmm.
But now all this stuff doesn't really quite line up with that anymore.
Right.
And so I either need to get back to that first love again,
Yeah.
or I need to find something else.
And I even think pushing through that first love makes it stronger. Here's a question for you, Phil.
Mhm.
When you're in a deconstruction mode, should that be done privately or with a few people, or is it okay to do that publicly?
I would say the stigma in the church is to do it privately, but I would believe that, at least in my faith and the things that I've seen, we should do it publicly.
Really?
Because of the fact to have community around you,
Mm-hmm.
to have the community challenge you in some of your deconstruction ideas.
So I guess I would agree with you if you're in a healthy community that can have real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So in a small group setting or even in a church setting where you trust to talk those things through. But I struggle when it's an article written or it's something that's really big where there can't be conversation. All I'm hearing is this guy's quitting, this woman's quitting kind of idea.
Yeah.
So I guess I do agree with you that it should be done in some form of community, but I'm not sure on the whole, like in Christianity Today, that should be an article. I would rather people work through it at a different level than that big level like I've given up.
I want people, like I'm searching for people to help me understand things.
No, absolutely.
And by deconstructing, I might make a statement that's pretty bold, like, I don't know, I'm not making the statement, but like, I don't believe in Jesus or something,
Right.
And then to have the people who have been in my life, who have been consistent with
Yeah.
me, the people that have seen me grow in my faith, be like, whoa, dude, like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like,
The healthy part of deconstruction for me is to look at what maybe Jesus said and think about how we've always taken it for years and then back up and go, is that what he really meant?
mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he really meant that. I think there's a deeper understanding in this. So there's a bit of deconstruction that has to happen before you can the reconstruction. I actually think all the phases are healthy as long as you hold on to the core. Like there's a bunch of people that at the church and that I know and that I love who we don't agree on everything theologically, but when we get down to it, one of my friends says, I don't always agree with all that and I have a few beliefs that I don't think that you would go with, but at the end of the day, I believe there was a person named Jesus who was God who came to this earth, died for our sins so that we could have life again. And I'm like, then we can work together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's a really healthy deconstruction if you can keep that faith level there.
I think it's healthy to understand too, like, we've just talked about the 3 areas. If you can identify where you're at, are you constructing your faith right now? Are you forming the principles that you believe on? Because you might be looking at this and I'm like, I ain't even at deconstruction or reconstruction. I'm just forming all these things and understanding what these all mean. But then to understand that there will come a time that truth that you've kind of planted your feet on is going to be tested.
Yes.
And
that
that's
is
when
what
you move into
testing's
that,
about.
that
That's
deconstruction phase. And then I think it's healthy to know, like, okay, I've been in a deconstruction phase.
Yeah.
I've torn everything down. Like, there's no more walls left.
Right.
I got to rebuild something now.
Right.
And I think it's healthy just to identify, like, I got to move on now and start reconstructing something that I'm
of substance.
On. Yeah.
And I love how you just talked about testing, because sometimes we think testing is temptation into sin. When I think real testing is of our faith. Do we really believe what we said we believed, especially right now when I'm not feeling it, or it's just not making sense to me right now? That is a huge test. Am I still going to have my faith and trust in Jesus and God the Father? The church needs to continue to be able to have these really honest conversations, which I think we're getting better at, but we still lack.
Yeah. When you're in that deconstruction phase, it's almost like you need someone sometime to just be like, here's a door for you. Like, you might have deconstructed all your walls and you don't have much of a frame left, but I'm going to put up a door for you just to remind you of those things of what are in your life.
That's good. That's really good. Wow, this is kind of
intense.
It was.
Know. We went to.
I feel like we need some music and I don't know. We're drinking coffee in a dark room. I don't know.
Intense places today. So.
No, it was good. It was good. I love doing this. So every week, man, new one. We're on 6.
Yeah. We'll
see where it goes.
We got a lot of topics planned for future. So keep tuning in, and we'll keep talking about the stuff that we're going to talk about. See you guys later.
See you guys.